Good afternoon, everyone. It's Weather for Weather Geeks time on this very autumnal Thursday. I think it's pretty nice outside. Some have said it's a little too cool for me, and the clouds have made it seem a little like, late September today, but the clouds are about to clear out. I'm recording this at 2:15 this afternoon, and this, kind of overcast that's popped up with a layer of moisture, a few thousand feet up in the atmosphere. It's pushing out, and we are going to not dry things out, but clear things out for the rest of the afternoon. It's been bright and sunny up towards Cedar Point, Cleveland, Ashtabula. The visibility's been phenomenal today. It's very, very nice air mass, nice and clean. The pollutants have been swept out. A lot of the pollen's been swept out, at least relatively speaking. And as the clouds clear out, we're going to be in fine shape for the rest of the day today. A look at 2 o'clock hour temperatures, 67 Youngstown, 64 under the clouds in Newcastle, and about 67, 68 over towards the I-77 corridor. All right, let's zoom out, take a look at what's happening across the rest of the country. We had a big complex of storms last night out here in Kansas, parts of Missouri. The remnants of that now down in Arkansas with some heavy gusty storms prompting severe thunderstorm warnings around Jonesboro. Those will head over into Tennessee before the afternoon is through. So that's kind of a broad look at things. The air mass, very, very dry across our part of the country right now. Let's bring up those dew point values. Let me get rid of some of this other information so everything's a little bit cleaner here. We want that, and we want this. Just a real quick look at where the moisture is and where it is not. We got a nice dry air mass right in through here, and then the air mass turns quite a bit soupier down in the southeast, heading into the southern plains. Now that moisture is going to stay shunted off to our south for another couple of days, and then I do think we'll feel the humidity. We'll start to notice it again before the weekend is through, certainly. So some changes coming our way over the weekend. We have 2 separate severe thunderstorm watches this afternoon, one with that complex I showed you out here, another one out in eastern North Carolina, and it clips a few counties in South Carolina as well. All right, the weather, smooth sailing for the next couple of days. We're going to have sunshine in abundance Friday and heading into Saturday. We'll talk about Sunday in just a second. You know, it's interesting. I've been watching this graph over the last couple of weeks. Of course, we had a remarkably cold winter. The ice lasted forever on the Great Lakes, especially up to the north, but even on Lake Erie, it lasted well into March and even into the first week of April. This graph shows you the average temperature based on the last 20 years of climatology. That's the blue line for the lake. Now, the lake is warmer in some spots, cooler in others, but when you average it all up, this is the temperature graph in a typical year, with values peaking in late July, early August, up in the mid-70s. The red line here is this year's graph. Of course, the water temperature way below average for winter and early spring, but look what's actually happened with the warmer weather we've had recently. Now the average Lake Erie water temperature is a few degrees above the climatological average. The average temperature now in the lower 60s, whereas par for this date is in the upper 50s. So kind of interesting to note after what a remarkably cold start we had. It's actually turned out to be a little above average in terms of the lake temperature. And boaters, fishermen, this may interest you as we head towards another late spring weekend. Here's a look at the water temperature breakdown on Lake Erie, and I apologize if the numbers are a little hard to see. Basically, the warmest part of the lake is out west, where it's around 66, 67, 68 degrees. Coolest lake temperatures are in the east, where it's still in the upper 50s. Around Ashtabula and heading over towards the east side of Cleveland, lake temperatures right now are about 60 degrees. So, not exactly swimming weather by any stretch of the imagination, but things are looking up on the lakes. And certainly the more shallow lakes, the landlocked lakes here in Ohio, western Pennsylvania, those water temperatures are probably getting well into the 60s now as we head through the first week of June. All right, I mentioned the weather's quiet the next couple of days. This high pressure will be right overhead. This is Saturday morning, that high almost centered right over us. Now, if you're doing some camping over the next couple of nights, especially tonight, boy, it's going to be cold, relatively speaking, and we'll be well down into the 40s tonight. So definitely a night to open up the windows, maybe even shut them because it may be a little too cool for you. I want to focus on Sunday. I've got a few questions on Facebook and Twitter about Sunday's weather. You know, it's the time of the year we've got graduation parties and all sorts of stuff going on, graduations themselves. And Sunday's been a bit of a question mark for the last couple of days. Now, I'm showing you the GFS model here, one of several models we use, weather models. The GFS, the newest run, paints kind of a dry picture on Sunday. Not much going on here. It would suggest there's maybe a 30% chance of a shower or a thunderstorm, but most of the moisture on the GFS is south of the Ohio River. Not sure if that's the right idea. Here's why. Here's the latest Canadian model. for the same period. Let's zoom ahead to Sunday. Now, this has that low pressure system riding along the Ohio River Sunday morning. It suggests we start Sunday dry, but then Sunday afternoon, look what happens. Pretty good slug of moisture. This would probably be a round of showers and maybe some thunder for the midday and afternoon on Sunday. If the Canadian model were to have the right idea, it would then push away towards evening. Latest European model, I'm going to hit refresh on this because it's just coming in as I record this. Let's see if it's out through Sunday yet. Let's see here. European model, Sunday morning, right here. Kind of looks like the Canadian. It's a little farther west, but it has that low along the Ohio River. And then Sunday afternoon, it does bring some moisture our way. Maybe not quite as much as the Canadian, but it still suggests there's at least a pretty decent chance of seeing some showers and storms in the area Sunday afternoon. So I think the forecast you'll see me go out with on the TV side tonight will be similar to what I had last night, probably about a 60% chance of a shower and thunderstorm. I'm going to emphasize the afternoon being the most likely part of the day to get wet on Sunday. Not to say it's impossible it rains in the morning, but I think it is more likely in the afternoon. Doesn't look like a washout, and it's no guarantee it rains in your backyard on Sunday. But I think there's a better than 50-50 chance of at least one shower or thunderstorm. So I'll have more updates on Sunday tomorrow, but I've gotten a few questions about that day, so I wanted to spend a little bit of time on it. Beyond Sunday, next week looking decent. There's no severe weather in our forecast over the next week. There's no heat waves in our forecast in the next week to 10 days. Overall, kind of an uneventful mid-June period. It could be pretty hot at this time of the year, and we're heading into the climatological peak of severe weather across our area, kind of mid to late June, maybe the first week of July. But right now, doesn't look like a lot. So that is good news. And that's Weather for Weather Geeks on this Thursday. I'll see you back here tomorrow afternoon. You'll see me on the news tonight as usual, 21 News, at 6 and 11 o'clock. So look forward to seeing you then. Have a great afternoon.